Okay, in this part of our presentation, I want to talk about pastoral implications. I think it would be accurate to say that in terms of the parish in Catholic life, the priest's role as pastoral leader is a key element. Parishes are usually alive or not alive, dependent on the energy that emanates from the pastor. Having said that, though, I think it is really important to note that the whole task of creating a parish community does not fall to the pastor. It is, in fact, on all of us. Certainly, the pastor and the pastoral staff have responsibilities that are theirs alone, but the life and vitality of the parish falls upon the shoulders of the entire parish. When I was working in the seminary, occasionally a seminarian would say, oh, when I get my parish, this is going to happen, or when I get my parish, I'm going to do that. And I would always say, there is no such thing as my parish. There is our parish in which you will be the servant. I said it over. They heard me say it so many times, they knew that's what was going to come out. But what I was stressing there was the reality that together we make a parish community. It's a very interesting excerpt in this book. Francis was speaking to the priests in Italy, Italian Clergy Conference. He says, "Here I think once more of you priests, and let me place myself in your company. What could be more beautiful for us than walking with our people? It is beautiful. When I think of the parish priests who knew the names of their parishioners, who went to visit them. One of them told me, I know the name of each family's dog. They even knew the dog's name. How nice it was. What could be more beautiful than this? I repeat it often, walking with our people, sometimes in front, sometimes behind, and sometimes in the middle. We walk in front in order to guide the community, in the middle in order to encourage and support, and at the back so that no one lags too far behind, to keep them united. There is another reason too, because the people have a nose. He has nose in quotation marks. Because the people have a nose. The people sent out discover new ways to walk. They have the sensus fidei, as the theologians call it. Very interesting in terms of the pastoral role, walking with the people more than once. And of course, you remember early in his ministry when he was talking with the bishops, and he said you have to have the smell of the sheep. The shepherd has to have the smell of the sheep. You know, walking with, being a part of. And he makes point to reference the people have the sensus fidei. That's again pertinent to my comment earlier about the young people. The young people have the sensus fidei about the future in ways that we do not. Now, they need our experience, they need our expertise, they need our guidance. But they have the sense of where they want to go more than we are able to have that. We have the sense of where we've been, and they need that as well. But they have the sense of where they want to go. Well, much of what people feel about a parish, much of what they find the energy to do, much of how involved they become, is connected with how much animation of parish life comes from pastor and parish staff. Do you, and again I mean the big U there, do you convey hope and mercy and compassion? I think it would be honest to say that recent decades have not been easy times for the clergy or for the church. Periods of scandal that we've gone through have taken their toll on the entire church. But being hopeful people in the context of giving powerful witness of the continuing presence of the Spirit with us, of the ability to acknowledge sin and to embrace conversion within all of us, that is an important part of our hope. Now, in this document, Misericordiae, in inviting the church to the Jubilee Year of Mercy, Francis gives a very clear example, very practical example, very pastoral example of how we might achieve the focus on mercy, compassion, forgiveness, and hope. It's in paragraph 15 of the document. He writes in paragraph 15, "It is my burning desire that during this Jubilee, the Christian people may reflect on the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. It will be a way to reawaken our conscience, too often grown dull in the face of poverty. And let us enter more deeply into the heart of the gospel, where the poor have a special experience of God's mercy. Jesus introduces us to these works of mercy in his preaching so that we can know whether or not we are living as his disciples. Let us rediscover these corporal works of mercy, to feed the hungry, to give drink to the thirsty, to clothe the naked, to welcome the stranger, to heal the sick, to visit the imprisoned, to bury the dead. And let us not forget the spiritual works of mercy, to counsel the doubtful, to instruct the ignorant, to admonish sinners, to comfort the afflicted, to forgive offenses, to bear patiently those who do us ill, and to pray for the living and the dead." Now, I don't know about the younger folks in this room, but the older folks in this room didn't get out of elementary Catholic school until they could recite all those. I mean, that was the spiritual and corporal works of mercy. You knew them by heart. And probably that was true in Pope Francis' youth as well. But he says there, and it just strikes me as so practical, "It is my burning desire that during this Jubilee year, the Christian people may reflect on the corporal and spiritual works of mercy." If you go through that list that he just did, there is something that everybody in the parish can identify with there. There is a work of pastoral ministry for everybody in that list. Think about your own parish that you're affiliated with. Bereavement ministry, taking communion to the sick, parish nurse program, teaching CCD, adult education, some places a school, anti-abortion work, jail ministry, visiting the elderly and shut-ins, food pantries, soup kitchen, clothing drives, St. Vincent de Paul, clean water, youth groups, welcoming the stranger. I mean, you could just extend that list again, equally that long. If you took the works of mercy, the corporal and spiritual works of mercy, and apply them as a practical guideline within parish life, he says it's a measure of whether we're living the way Christ intends for us to live. There are ministries there that everyone in every parish can connect with. Every form of parish ministry connects in some way with the spiritual and corporal works of mercy. You know, let me just pull out, for example, that one, Welcome the Stranger. I mean, in 2016, is that not a key work of mercy that could be embraced? Here we are dealing with racism, dealing with anti-immigration in terms of United States policy, dealing with refugee crises all over the world. Welcome the stranger. You perhaps are familiar with a pastoral letter that the United States Catholic bishops issued in 1978 under the title, Brothers and Sisters to Us. If you have not read it, you can find it on the U.S. Bishop's website. It is a very important document for the United States, probably worldwide, but certainly for the United States at this point in time, because it addresses racism. And in that pastoral letter of 1978, 36 years ago, right? They addressed racism is a sin. They addressed the whole morality of the issue of racism. Now, sin is not a word that bishops throw around lightly. Sin is a word used with specific moral implications. So it is to be taken seriously by the faith community. And in that pastoral, Brothers and Sisters to Us, the United States Catholic bishops said racism is a sin. Welcome the stranger. I don't think anybody is without being aware that we are facing an election year. We're going through the most god-awful election year of my lifetime, that's for sure. But that is a time period when addressing the moral implications of political issues becomes really important for the church. And we have several right now in our agenda in the United States, immigration being probably the biggest one, and immigration policy. The United States Bishops' Committee on Migration works so hard to educate the Catholic population about Christian ways to deal with the migration of people and undocumented peoples. You know, ways that are pastoral and humanitarian and yet real. You know, not pretending that there aren't issues, there are. One of the things, and I can't put my finger in the paragraph of it now, that Francis says within this document is, one of our responsibilities is to become informed, to inform ourselves about what the issues are, so that we can then act in a manner that is consistent with our Christian teaching. So it's going to be very important as we get closer and as we have actual candidates in the two parties. Right now we just have a whole bunch of wannabes, but when we have actual candidates, it's going to be very important to sort through policies and to compare them with the moral standards of the church in terms of selections we make. Parish social justice ministry, you know, the whole list of them that we just read in conjunction with the spiritual and corporal works of mercy. So that, for example, when Francis moved environmentalism to the front burner with Laudato Si', there are clear moral implications. It's not just Flint, Michigan, where the kids are dying of leaded water. That too, but there are clear moral implications, which a person of faith can't say that's politics. It is politics, yes, but it is morality first. And that's the door that we have to help people open. Part of what a document like this, Misericordiae, or like meditating on the spiritual and corporal works of mercy, taking those as a parish's work for a few months, part of what that can help us to do, the reason I say it is a pastoral ministry, it can help us to learn to deal with these very controversial issues in ways that are not divisive, not polarizing, not proselytizing, and yet give people the tools to be able to make decisions informed by their faith. It obviously doesn't help anybody if church people simply become part of the polarized, divisive arguments. To what end? But it does help a lot of people if we become both well-informed in what are the teachings of our faith, social justice principles, and what are the issues to which we need to apply these. Issues: environmentalism, immigration, racism, immigration, poverty, healthcare, affordable housing. These are all going to be issues. These all are issues. They are going to continue to be issues. And they are issues which have very important moral dimensions. And we need to be informed to understand the moral implications and to counter the ignorance and hatred and fear that are out there. In Francis' words, quote, "Mercy is the bridge which connects God and man." He gets it, the Vatican II understanding that the church is in the world. Not the fortress with the bridge you can pull up so you're safe inside, but the giant tent, the field hospital. At one point, he cites Gaudium et Spes from Vatican II, the Pastoral Constitution in the Church in the Modern World, the opening paragraph of which read, "The joy and hope, the grief and anguish of the people of our time, especially those who are poor or afflicted in any way, are the joy and hope, the grief and anguish of the followers of Christ as well. Nothing that is genuinely human fails to find an echo in their hearts." End quote. Nothing that is genuinely human. Pope Francis seems to get this. I mean, get it in the deep sense his solidarity with the human race. And that makes the paragraph 15 that I read to you with the renewal of the spiritual and corporal works of mercy, that's the reason they are central in his naming of a practical way that we can address the Jubilee Year of Mercy. There were several other practical things he had suggested in this document, but some of them were for Lent, which is already passed. And judging from what I've read in both the Pittsburgh Catholic and the Greensburg Catholic Accent, a lot of parishes did implement some of the things he suggested for Lenten practice. But that particular one on the spiritual and corporal works of mercy is clearly not limited to Lent. Be a tremendous source of strengthening parish life, to enable people to gather in groups, to reflect together on the meaning of those various works of mercy and how, within the context of their life experience, they can implement them. It would have to be a source of personal spiritual growth as well as outreach. Shortly after I had finished reading Misericordiae Vultus, I came across an article, America Magazine Online, by a Paulist priest named Dennis Holzschneider, talking about how to strengthen the parish, how to make a parish more alive. I think I brought it with me. Well, maybe I didn't. At any rate, he gave a practical formula for ways of making a parish more vital, more alive. He said, first of all, improve preaching. Many people in some parishes wouldn't fight with that. Secondly, he said, strengthen ministry. He's not talking just about the clergy there strengthening ministry. There's the spiritual and corporal works of mercy, all of the ministries that we spoke of, which most every parish has some aspect of some of those that people can engage in. He said, thirdly, fund theological education. Fund, F-U-N-D. And he's not, again, talking about funding it just for clergy, though that too. He says we have to rebuild our political capital. He doesn't, by the term political there, he means working, especially by functioning in a way that is collaborative rather than magisterial. And lastly, he says it's important that we restructure national bishops' conferences in order to recapture the role that they played in the church in the immediate aftermath of Vatican Council II. That is that the bishops had to work together in those days to be a collective voice, because the statements they issued were statements that were representative of the teaching church. And there were some, I'm sure, very hot sessions in working out some of those documents. I think a chief characteristic that I would name, and that seems to be part of what Pope Francis is stressing in this document, is that no matter what pastoral approach we are taking in terms of activities to involve in, or projects to embrace, or ministries to shape in this Jubilee Year of Mercy, that it is critical that we develop a collaborative style, that it not be top-down ministry. The smell of the sheep thing, be with the people, the walking with, be with the people, the sensus fidei, hear what the people are picking up. I think, in fact, if we were to take those spiritual and corporal works of mercy and use them as Francis suggests when he says it's my burning desire that during this year we reflect on these, I think if we were, in fact, to do that in every church throughout the world, we would dramatically change the world. We would dramatically change it. Some scary ways, in terms of what it would ask of us, but I think we would dramatically change it.